Hello, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Exec podcast. It's now been 5 weeks of this horrible, horrible war, and things are still intense over here, but I am trying to remain optimistic. And today we're going to be talking about winning. And I'm going to start with an example coming from the Israeli army. However, we're going to get to real startup stuff like 3 minutes in, so stay tuned. And by the way, I do know that I'm talking a lot about Israel right now, here on my podcast, on my newsletter, all over my Twitter. If anyone here feels like you don't know enough and you just want to chat with someone, I'm biased, of course, but still, if you want to chat with someone, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm going to try and make the time to chat, either, reach out. My email's in the show notes. Now, let's talk about winning, and I'm going to start with something that's counterintuitive. The Israeli innovation when it comes to all sorts of defense systems is mind-boggling. I'm sure you've seen the videos of Iron Dome that intercepts 95% of the rockets Hamas, Hezbollah, and other very, very nice organizations around us have been throwing at Israel in the tens of thousands over the last few years. And this is by having interceptors that immediately are fired and intercept those rockets in midair before they get to their destination, civilian population. That's amazing. We have several other similar systems for different regions right now, and I don't know if you saw, but we are working on one that's laser oriented for, I think, drones and stuff like that, and that's being tested in the battlefield right now. The border with Gaza, where we already discovered several attack tunnels about a decade ago and went into a big offensive in order to blow those up and stop it. After that, for several years, Israel invested billions of dollars in building a solution that's unique in the world when it comes to an underground barrier that's supposed to stop all of those attack tunnels. And as you saw on October 7th, Hamas didn't use any attack tunnels, they just went over it, right? And this is connecting to our winning subject in a second, but one more example. Israel just had, a few days ago, the first ever in the world operational interception of a ballistic missile outside of the atmosphere. That's because the Houthis, if you know them, which essentially occupied a good chunk of Yemen and are Iranian proxies, have also been firing stuff at Israel, because why not join in on the fun? And the Arrow 3 has done the first interception in the world of a rocket outside of the atmosphere. Again, this is something that I'm seeing a lot of military people worldwide are aghast about, because this is something that hasn't been done before and very innovative, etc., etc., etc. And these are all great examples of how innovative, creative, novel Israel is when it comes to coming up with ways to protect its civilians. Hamas is investing in creating attack mechanisms to attack civilians in Israel. And Israel is mainly considering how can we protect our civilians and, of course, keep investing in our economy. Not something I can say about Hamas. Now, when you consider that, that sounds amazing. And, these things have saved countless lives over here. Because if not, the thousands and thousands of rockets that were stopped just in the last month would have caused a massive disaster over here. And these are things that are extremely, extremely important. And, had Hamas attacked through tunnels, it might have been even a bigger disaster, because they could have brought a lot more people inside without our tanks, for example, being able to stop them, etc. Now, this is good, right? However, and today's subject is winning, this is not how one wins. This is a mind-boggling investment in defending ourselves to the point where it seems, like we're trying to build a huge iron wall around all of us in order to protect ourselves from the terror organizations around us. And yet, as we saw, this does not get us to a win, to a situation where this is not needed. We do this They keep coming up with other novel ways to eventually slaughter Israelis in their beds, and the cycle continues. They build something horrific, we find a solution, they find a new horrific thing to do. And therefore, this does not get us out of it. And I think what was missing here is a clear strategy about how are we going to win? How are we going to get to a situation where this is just no longer a threat? One such strategy is working towards peace, which hasn't been possible with Hamas since they took over Gaza, given that their charter is about saying Israel has no right of existence, and their officials saying, even again days ago, repeating that Israel must be destroyed, and they will repeat the same attacks given the opportunity till Israel is annihilated. And therefore, there's no real peace to be had with them. However, peace might be one part of the strategy. Deciding to go for a military win, like I think we finally have reached here in Israel, the understanding that you cannot tame this hyena on your border. You have to find a way to protect yourself from it in a way that's once and for all. And in this case, I'm not sure what's going to be. I don't think anyone exactly knows, but it's going to be something that goes for a win, as in Hamas will not be anything that we need to be protecting ourselves from. Just like the Nazis were defeated, just like Japan surrendered at the end of the World War II, that's what we should be aiming for, uprooting this evil once and for all. And that's the win. That's what we haven't been working on in quite a while. And as weird as it might seem to you, I'm seeing these, of course, these analogies, these connections all the time right now because my brain is all the time jumping from one to the other and is making more and more connections. I'm seeing pretty much something very similar when it comes to tech, and I'm just noticing, I'm sorry, this is me breaking the fourth wall or something. I'm noticing how much faster I'm talking now as I'm moving to this, because talking about tech is a lot more natural for me as opposed to talking about disasters and my people getting slaughtered. Anyway, but what I do see is something very similar. What the IDF, the Israeli army, has been doing is essentially very similar to having an amazing engineering team that has the best talent, keeps hiring the best people, investing in them, that refactors any little thing so that you have no little spot of tech debt, that has the best tech, that has already, integrated anything OpenAI has put to the market a day after they announced it, etc., etc. Really having an organization that's at the top when it comes to its technical chops. However, doing all that is equivalent to having all the amazing defensive technology we have in Israel. And yet, if you have that and you don't know how you're gonna, as a startup, as a company, get to the win, who needs it? Because having amazing technology is not necessarily, in our business world, a requisite in order to succeed. However, if you succeed, no one cares what tech you have. And the same goes with this war and, of course, with your startup. And I want to think about that. Too many executives, leaders focus on these things not because they're simple. I'm not downplaying how hard it is to create an organization that's genuinely excellent, that has tech chops, that can do amazing things. That's hard, that's complex, it takes years sometimes, and this is a lot of what I help my clients do. However, if you solely do that, you're just following the path of least resistance. This is where you're expected to be. It is something that makes you feel motivated, fulfilled, challenging, something that at a glance, by your peers, by your friends, by your boss, looks like you're doing all the right things. However, if you do all that and avoid your responsibility as an executive to come up with a solid strategy that strives for a genuine win, not just surviving VC round to VC round, not just doing stuff that makes the board meetings look okay, but actually going for a win, finding that strategy, finding the right go-to-market, realizing how you can align your company's vision, your offering, the market, along with the advantages that you have as a tech organization. Without melding those together, you will not get a win. You will be doing a disservice for your team, and you're going to have a lot of very nice engineering blog posts, but very little to show for them at the end of the day, at the end of the VC money. And I don't think this is what we're here for. I think life's too short to just focus on shiny technology and not strive for a real win. You can do that if you're in a bigger company. You can do that as an IC. That's not what leaders are to be doing. And I think if you're not right now capable of putting your finger on how you're going to get to a win or how you're working on coming up with this path towards a win, you are not being the executive you ought to be. And you need to talk to someone like me, or you should grab my latest book, Capitalizing Your Technology, which talks a lot exactly about this. And that's it. Wishing that you will go for a win. And of course, I know we're going to win. The question is essentially how long and the price. But let's together hope it's going to be quicker. And with that, thank you for joining me. All the regular links to my newsletter, etc., are in the show notes, and I'll be here next week.